Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Strategic Veteran. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and today's guest is someone who knows firsthand what it means to fight battles, both on and off the field. Rob Wheeler spent a decade serving in the United States Navy, reaching the rank of E5, navigating deployments, structure, and discipline, until an unexpected medical discharge cut that journey short. No parade, no final salute, just a sudden shift from a life of purpose to a glaring silence many veterans know way too well. What followed for Rob was a deep personal struggle, the loss of structure, his sense of identity, and ultimately his physical and mental health. But instead of staying in that dark place, Rob chose to do the hardest thing. He took responsibility for his healing, transforming pain into fuel. Today, Rob is rewriting the mission. He's the founder of Battle Fitted, a personal development brand built around turning adversity into strength. As a certified coach, speaker, and the host of the Battle Harder podcast, Rob helps veterans, first responders, and those battling in silence find purpose again through fitness, mindset, and the courage to start small. His story is raw, real, and a powerful reminder that just because the uniform comes off doesn't mean the mission is over. It just evolves. Rob, brother, Coach Rob, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Like this is the podcast I've been looking forward to. So,
well, that's
the podcast to end all podcasts.
No. Let's not go that far, man. I'm really humbled by that. I'm honored that you feel that way, and I'm really excited because I think for those of you that are listening, for those of you who have been with me through the beginning and followed this journey, I think Rob's story is probably there's going to be a lot of parallels to my own story. Just writing this introduction and reading through it. All of the things and even pre-meetings with Rob and conversations that we've had before, our mindsets are very similar and almost identical, if you will, in the things that we have accomplished through getting out our own transitions and then on the other side of that. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation with you too, brother. So first question for every veteran that comes on, man, where did you grow up and what inspired you to join?
So I grew up in California, of all places. I'm currently in Florida now. I love to call Florida poor man's California because I can't afford to go back to Cali. I grew up there, actually had a full scholarship for track and cross country in college, went to college, actually thought I was going to be a youth pastor of all things, went to University of California Baptist, and school sucked. I couldn't focus, couldn't figure it out, couldn't focus on my studies. So I got kicked out academically. And for 6 months, and this is the craziest thing, this is a true story, 6 months, every morning, my father, who owned his own business, would kick open my door at 6 a.m. and say, join the Navy, religiously every day for 6 months. And my dumbass joined the Navy thinking it was going to piss off my dad. Little did I know that that was exactly what he wanted. And it got me out of the house and my journey would begin.
So the Navy was kind of forced upon you. You didn't have any foresight to look at any of the other branches. You were just fed up with your dad kicking your door in, and you just went and joined the Navy to piss him off?
Yeah. So in California, I was at, I didn't have anybody that really joined the military. So I didn't have anybody to talk to. And my dad was in the Navy for 3 years. So I didn't think about, maybe I should check the Air Force first or, somewhere else. No, I went straight to the Navy recruiter and I let them pretty much bend me over and say, here you go, you're in the Navy. And that would start the whole entire journey. I had no purpose as a kid growing up. I was one of those people that probably would still be living in mom's basement if I would have had the choice back then. Mm-hmm. So it was the thing that was needed to start to give me a little bit of purpose and sense of responsibility as a young man.
Yeah, for sure, man. So what year did you end up doing this?
So I graduated high school in 95 and I went into the Navy in 1997.
Okay. So let's talk about your Navy career. Obviously you just let them bend you over. So I assume that means you didn't get a job that you really liked.
So I go to the recruiter, right? And once again, I didn't have anybody to give me guidance. So to anybody that wants to go in the military, I would suggest speaking to a veteran or get some sort of guidance. Don't just go in there willy-nilly and say, hey, what do I do? Because my recruiter was like, oh, well, you'll get your job when you go to boot camp. And little did I know,
no.
They don't give you a job at boot camp. You go to boot camp and then they're like, oh, well, you're going straight to the fleet as an undesignated seaman. And I'm like, Undesignated. What does that mean? They're like, it basically means you're going to be a janitor. You're going to be the joke, butt of everybody's joke. You're going to be the bitch that does all the work that nobody wants to do, and your life's going to be real fun.
Yeah. I love the advice you just gave about, if you're thinking about joining the military, you really should be talking to other people who have served. I know I have a particular way that I like to advise people. I'm all for people who want to join the military, even today, with as fucked up as everything is and all the things that I'm hearing about, at least from what's going on in the Army. I don't know how the rest of the branches are. I assume it's kind of a blanket situation. However, my advice is always, first of all, go to college, join an ROTC program. And I say that for a lot of reasons, but the main reason is being in the Army, particularly as an infantryman who was deployed every other year for his entire career. I saw there's so much more opportunity for officers. Prime example, my 16-month deployment, my XO, my lieutenants, they all rotated out in the middle of a deployment because their time was up, right? Whereas if you're an enlisted guy, it doesn't matter if your time's up. You're not moving anywhere till that fucking deployment's over. You know what I mean? Then there's the aspect of you make fucking more money. You just do. And then there's the aspect of, well, you have a degree. So back when I thought it was, required to be successful once you got out, having the degree. So you've shortened 4 years off of the time that you're going to invest after you get out to make more money in the long run over your career. And just, in my opinion, have a better career. And then I always tell people to join the Air Force. I really do. I saw so much, if I had my career to do all over again, same time period, same deployments, all of that, I'd have been an Air Force JTAC. Why? Because I watched those dudes reenlist for hundreds of thousands of dollars overseas, tax-free. Not only that, my sister served in the Air Force, and it seemed like every time I turned around, she had leave or she had some pass or she was just on fucking vacation. I remember being at NTC and JRTC. They go to the box with us, but at night they go home to a really nice fucking hotel. They're not staying in the cantonment area in the shitty barracks that we were staying in. It's just, so I love that you're talking about, like, if you're looking to join the military, go talk to a veteran who's lived that, because their advice is going to be experience based, and they're going to be able to tell you, if you want to be an infantryman, I can tell you everything that I wish I would have known about being an infantryman, about when you're in garrison, that you're going to be a glorified janitor and you're going to clean weapons until you hit the fucking metal on the rifle. You're going to do a lot of stupid shit and hurry up and wait a lot, right? I can tell you all that nuanced shit that nobody tells you about the infantry. And so I love, that perspective that you're bringing to the table, brother. So you get to the Navy, you get to the fleet, and you're just an undesignated sailor?
Undesignated seaman.
Seaman.
Undesignated seaman, like no rank, no job, nothing, nothing. I went to a ship where at the time they didn't integrate women yet, so it was all dudes. And I always tell everybody it was like being in prison. I was bullied, I was harassed. This is where a lot of my PTSD and depression comes from. It was literally the worst experience of my life. And I remember going off the pier and going to a payphone, and I called my dad. I think I was only at my command for maybe 3 months max. And I call my dad, and I'm bawling like a little bitch, right? I'm like, Dad, I can't do this. I want to come home. I can't do this. And the greatest thing that I'll never forget that he could have ever said to me was, son, I love you, but you can't come home. Click. And he just hung up the phone on me. And at that point, like, I realized that no one's coming to save you. It's up to me to do what I have to do to survive, like literally survive. So,
yeah, I relate to that a ton, right? So I got to my first duty station somewhere between a month and 2 weeks after those guys had come home from the invasion. So as an infantry private with no rank, you can imagine how shitty my life was. Add to that the fact that I was kind of like you, an undesignated seaman or whatever. I was an infantry guy. My contract got fucked up. I wasn't even supposed to go to the 3rd ID. I came in on a Ranger contract. Recruiter fucked up paperwork. Anyway, I ended up at 3rd ID. Well, 3rd ID wasn't expecting me. So I was like, showed up with a group of like 10 or 15 people. They're on a 4-day pass. We end up spending like 8 hours standing at parade rest with our A and B bags or whatever, our duffel bags outside of battalion headquarters. they come out one at a time, call people's names, tell them where they're going. Some representative from staff duty or whatever comes and picks them up. I'm the only asshole left standing there. They don't have a place for me to go because they're not expecting me because all that paperwork snafu. So for like the first 3 or 4 weeks, I just float around the brigade to different battalions doing whatever they wanted me to do. Most memorable is like I'm a brand new private, have just Army Service and National Defense Service medal on my chest, nothing else. And they're like, you're going to go be a bailiff at a court martial for the next 3 weeks. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then they send me to my real unit. Like they give me a battalion and a company. And I show up at ACO and they're like, we don't have a fucking spot for you. And you just showed up at like the worst time because we've just been tasked with finding 5 infantry soldiers to send to the headquarters company to get ready for the deployment to be basically log pack security as infantrymen for the support platoon. And so now not only am I getting bullied by all the infantry guys because I don't have a home, so I'm not building any kind of camaraderie. Now I go to a support platoon. Those guys all had combat experience. They were all on every single one of them. I was the only guy with no combat experience whatsoever. And so I remember telling my support platoon sergeant, man, I want to fucking quit. I'm done with this. I'm done. I had a whole childhood of being bullied by my peers and my the adults who are supposed to mentor me. I dealt with that my whole life. And then I get into the Army and it's 10 times worse and it's 10 times more physical. And so I can relate to that. I also was kind of a late bloomer in my growth spurt. I joined the Army at 5'11", 180 pounds through basic training. And my first deployment, I would grow to 6'3" and 240 pounds. So like I just hit my stride in life earlier to turn into a big guy. So I was just completely overpowered and just miserable, man. And then all the fuck games that you're playing, shitty squad leaders who are constantly fucking drunk, reading chapters of a book to you on Saturday morning because you were dumb enough to answer your barracks room door, and they want to do whatever they think is going to make them happy. So they just smoke you while they're reading you chapters of a fucking Louis Lamar book or some shit, So I relate 100% to what you went through, brother.
And I think, and it's not just what's funny is that you say that, because even the Navy, and I'm assuming across most branches, sometimes they just don't know what to do with people. And instead of trying to take the time to figure it out, no, they just say, hey, fuck you, go over here, go over there, go over here. My last command, I was with a helicopter squadron. And because I was the military police officer, they didn't want me there because if I was there, I was going to fuck their people up. I was going to make sure they got in trouble, that they towed the line, that they did that we were supposed to. And a squadron was notorious for taking care of themselves and hiding shit. So when we were on deployment, you're on ship police. When we were back home, you're at base police. I never saw my squadron or my squad mates at all. And that was my duty station. I was supposed to be there to uphold the law. And they were like, nah, just go over here. Just go over there. So I understand being like just thrown around like a piece of trash.
I'm glad I stuck it out because as soon as I think probably when we left for NTC right before that first deployment, that's when everything kind of clicked and I was accepted and start building that camaraderie and that team. And then obviously the deployment, back in late 04, beginning of 05 to Tikrit, Iraq, was the VBIG capital of the world when I went there, right? So, I mean, it was just constant struggle and awful things happening, right? So I think forced to accept and like understand that like we need each other more than anything right now. So what did the rest of your career look like? I don't want to spend a lot of time on the highlight reel of your career because you and I are so aligned in what we went through in transition and what we're doing on the other side of transition. I think that's how this time is best spent, is just the back and forth in our philosophies and what we've learned. But I think it's important to paint the picture of, all the stuff we've covered so far, what you've been through. What did the rest of your career look like, and what was the factor that led you to getting out?
So rest of the career actually wasn't too bad. Once I did my year undesignated, the destroyer I was on was decommissioning. And because it was decommissioning, that allowed me to pick a school. So originally, due to my ASVAB scores, the only thing I really qualified for was being a CB, which is a construction battalion. And the Navy CB motto is we build, we fight. So basically, anywhere that you're going to build infrastructure, whether it's landing pads, bases, whatever, You're going to do that, and then you're going to also protect the area if you're in war or combat or whatever. So I went to Amphibious Construction Battalion in Virginia. And at this time, I still had like a failure to adapt. Like I just wasn't really feeling the military. I get in trouble a lot. I go to captain's mast a lot. It was a mess. It was put a bad taste in my mouth in the military. And I actually broke service. So they had in the Navy at the time, you could get out early if you went to college. So I did 3 years, got an early out, went to college, went back to my I don't give a fuck about anything ways, which caused stress on my life with my wife, my kids, everything. And then what's interesting is September 11th happens, right? And I still say that I got the letter before September 11th happened, which is really weird. But September 11th happens, and I get a letter, and it says, you have two choices. You can go in the Navy, or we're going to bring you back in the Navy. So I went back to the recruiter, a little more wiser, a little more smarter.
You know what's up now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm not getting bent over this time.
Right.
And I said, what do you have for me? And they're like, well, the Navy is starting a brand new military police force. At the time, a master at arms was only tied to a ship, and a ship master at arms was somebody that would just look over the security of the ship and the safety of the ship. Well, they're like, no, because of September 11th, we need a whole Navy police force. So I said, sign me up. And I actually went to the first police academy in Virginia Beach as a military master at arms. And that's what I would do for the rest of my career. And that's where I thrived as a police officer. That's where I found purpose. That's where I found my people. That's where like I was kicking ass and taking names. And I got to go to Japan, to Yokosuka, Japan for 3 years. And that was like the greatest thing ever for me. Like just experiencing that life, working for base police, working almost like as a regular city police officer, doing all the police things, doing all the training. And that's where my career would stay as a military police officer. Well, once I left Japan, I went back to Jacksonville, Florida, to NAS Jacksonville. And that's where I was with the Hilo Squadron. And what sucks is I remember I had to drive from, my parents lived in Vegas. I drove from Vegas to Georgia to pick up my wife and kids at the time. Drove from Georgia down to Jacksonville. And as soon as I got on base, Senior Chief E7 or E8 was calling me, and he's like, Wheeler, where the fuck are you? And I'm like, excuse me, who is this? He's like, who is this? Like, what's going on? They're like, we're going to Iraq tomorrow, and you're supposed to be packed in here. And I'm like, no, I just got into town. My orders say I don't have to show up till, XYZ. And he's like, no, fuck you. You've got to be here. You're going to Iraq tomorrow. So that created a whole new problem and situation. So I go to the base hotel. I check in. I'm calling my family and saying, look, I'm going to Iraq tomorrow. I don't know what's going on. I kiss my wife and kids goodbye. My wife is freaking out at the time. So I get on the MAC flight. We go to Norfolk, Virginia to get on the Theodore Roosevelt to go to war. And my wife calls me and she goes, you have to come home. And I'm like, do you not understand like what's going on right now? The gravity of the situation. She's like, no, you have to come home. I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. Because in Jacksonville, we had nothing.
Right. Well, you had just checked into a new unit.
Right. Right.
You're in the base hotel. You have no housing. I'm really surprised because in the Army, not only do you get orders to PCS, but then you get a separate sheet of orders that tell you you're going to this place in Iraq with X company or whatever. Right. So you didn't have orders to Iraq.
I just had orders to my squadron, and then the squadron's like, fuck you, we're going to war. And so I had kind of like made some friends quickly, which was good in the squadron. And I talked to them. They're like, look, go talk to the captain. He seems pretty reasonable at times. Maybe they'll figure something out. So I go to the captain and I explain to him the situation. I'm like, look, I don't have a house. My wife doesn't have a driver's license. We have nothing. Like the kids aren't in school. And so luckily they let me fly back. I was back in Jacksonville for about 3 to 5 months, got a house, got everything set up, got everything taken care of. This is the one time, I guess, in my military career where people actually gave a fuck. And I was very impressed because the base officer that was in charge of me, she was like, I don't care how long it takes for you to get your stuff taken care of. You take care of your family first and then worry about going back to Iraq. So I fly back. I fly to Italy. As I'm flying into Italy, the ship is pulling out of port.
Oh, man. So you're chasing the ship now.
So I'm chasing the ship. I'm stuck in Italy for a week, and I'm thinking I'm going to see Italy, chill out. Nope. They're like, you're the master at arms. So guess what? You're in charge of all the people that are in trouble. So everybody that was restricted, everybody that went to captain's mess, I had to take them to chow. I had to make sure they did their chores. I had to, all their extra duty. They're like, we never had a base police officer here, so this is perfect. So I got whored out for a week in Italy. Flew from Italy to Bahrain. The ship was gone again.
Oh,
was still
no.
in Bahrain for a week, and then flew from Bahrain into Iraq onto the aircraft carrier, like literally landing on the aircraft carrier, an experience I'll never forget. So we're in combat. I didn't see combat, luckily. The scariest moment of my life, I guess, I was entry control point supervisor, and we're watching trucks and trash trucks and things come in, and all I'm thinking of is, great, what the fuck's going to blow up and take me out?
Yeah. I know that feeling. Well,
really, really big pucker factor, right?
Yeah.
So do my deployment, get my combat action ribbon, all that good stuff. We come back. The squadron's like, go to base police. I'm like, okay, whatever. I was having knee issues my whole military career from being a cop, from all the arrests, all the fighting, everything I had to do, all the training, all the kneeling and shooting. And every time, and I'm sure you probably can relate to this, I went to the doctor. It was either suck it up or here's some Motrin. It was never, you have an issue, we need to fix it.
Yeah, man.
And I would tell them, and I'd be like, no, my knee's fucked up. And they're like, no, it's not. Like, stop lying. So we literally just got back from Iraq. I was probably at base police for maybe 3 weeks working in the armory because they knew about my knee problem. They were giving me a break. They're like, the base, the squadron commander wants to see you. So I go see him. I'm like, great, what now? They're like, we need to, I don't know if your branch had this, but during the war, they had what they called internal augment, where each command had to send so many bodies to go to war. So they would take so many bodies from each command, and then you would go to Army warrior training, I believe in Fort Lost in the Woods, and then you would go to combat.
No, the Army had just a patch. And mind you, I don't know what Big Army did. I speak from the infantry perspective. And we all know ad nauseum on this show, the infantry is a completely different monster inside of the actual branch that it's the same for the Marines as well. It's just a completely different monster. So at least from my experience, we didn't have to do that. Internally, we would take guys from platoons to send them on special duties inside of a deployment, but we had a patch chart. So we always knew, if you're with 3rd ID, 3rd Brigade, for example, coming home from my first deployment on the parade field, they handed us orders with a date to go back. Right. So I didn't have PCS orders. I didn't have, ETS orders or anything like that after my first deployment. So anybody that didn't have, PCS or ETS orders, they got handed a fresh sheet of paper order saying on January 10th, 2000, and I guess it would have been 7, you will find yourself standing on this parade field going back to Iraq. Right. So that's how it worked for us. And then inside of that, if there was an SFAB detail before SFAB was a whole training pipeline and all of that, we would send bodies. We would have red platoons to go do. My 3rd deployment was really cool. My platoon got elected as the ARF platoon. So we separated from the rest of the battalion and we went out to Taji to do downed aircraft recovery. Probably the chillest I ever had it on a deployment because we lived in giant hangars, which was a far cry from the shitty fucking unair conditioned tents we had. And we had a gym and a really nice chow hall. And that's really all we did was train how to recover down to aircraft. Sometimes we get to go fly around and then work out, eat, and sleep. So that's how it worked for us. Long-winded way of saying, no, we did it different.
Yeah. So in the Navy, and I believe Marine Corps and even Air Force, because we needed so many bodies to go to war, they would just take so many from each command. And basically the commander's like, well, you're the military police officer, so you're going. And I'm like, we just got back.
I just got fucking back. Yeah.
I literally, like, I haven't been with my family. And he's like, I don't care. You know, it is what it is. And I said, well, sir, like, no offense, I have knee issues and I've been saying this. And he's like, yeah, we know about that. You're lying. You don't have knee issues. And I'm like, this whole time that I've been explaining in my medical career that I have these knee problems, I don't understand why no one's believing me. So they're like, you're going to have to go to a flight surgeon and get checked out to be fit for duty. So I go to the flight surgeon and he's looking at my knee and he's checking things out. He's like, your knee is all fucked up. And I'm like, yeah, I've been saying this for like 3 years. He's like, dude, I can't send you to combat. You are not fit for duty. He's like, why? He's like, why haven't you got this taken care of? And I wanted to choke him. I'm like, why didn't I get this taken care of? I've been saying for 3 years that I have knee issues. And so that would end up actually starting me to get out. I had physical therapy, orthoscopic surgery, physical therapy. And the last thing is doctors putting steroids in my knee. And I remember they're sitting there asking the doc as he sticks this freaking long ass needle in my knee. I'm like, doc, how long in my career am I going to have to do this? And he's like, the rest of your career. And at that point, I'm like, I'm done. And that's
so did you med board or did you just ETS?
No, I med boarded.
You med boarded. Good for you. You know, I'm here to tell you, I relate to that a ton. It was the shoulder that put me out. You know, I too had gone for aches and pains, mainly in my back, typical infantryman stuff, but they would just take a knee, face out, drive on kind of thing, right? Here's some Motrin, ignore it largely. That has come back to bite me in the ass. And why I say that, last year I had a herniated disc at L4, L5 removed, right? So justified in all the fucking pain I had had my entire career. This year I discovered, and I've been bitching about this for over a decade, right? I've always had issues in my hips, mainly in my right hip, where it feels like there's a giant Bowie knife in there if I stand too long or whatever. Come to find out, this year that culminated actually April 11th. I'm still wearing, you can see the brace. I still got the brace on. Total labrum replacement. My labrum in my right hip had calcified and turned to bone.
Oof.
So I relate 100% to what you're talking about. Like, I'm not just faking the fucking funk. Like, I have a really high pain tolerance. Like, I'm telling you, I cannot deal with this anymore, but you continually get ignored until, you know, now I have a giant fucking valley in the head of my femur because it was bone on bone for so long. It just eroded the head of my femur away. And so I will never be pain-free in that hip. However, I'll tell you, since surgery, I feel great, man. It's like, I'm really excited to see what this unlocks as far as physical fitness, which we're going to get into here shortly. So thank you for sharing all of that with us. Now let's move into the real reason we're here, to talk about the work that you and I are doing on the other side of you know, the military and in transition. You and I have identified through our own struggles with transition that TAP and all the fucking programs that exist are a fucking joke, and they don't work, and they're a blanket fix for an individual problem. What was your transition like? Where did it all go wrong for you? And I'm willing to bet I already know the answer to this, but those listening don't know. So let's talk about that. MedBoard goes through, you get your ratings, you're getting out. Now what?
So they signed me up for TAP, and I don't even remember, you know, I think it was only like a 3-day class. I don't even think it was a full week of class. And basically what I remember from TAP is being so bored that I didn't pay attention. And I basically sat there and was like, why am I here? This information is useless. Like, I don't need to know how to write a resume. Like, I need to find out what my purpose is. I need to find out what am I supposed to do now that I'm not in this, you know, giant club of people.
Yeah, who the fuck am I?
Yeah, I don't have camaraderie anymore. I don't have support anymore. I don't even have medical anymore. Like, basically they said, here's $50,000 based on your rank and years of service. So here's your severance pay, kick rocks. And I'm like, fuck, you know what? I had nothing, no idea.
So you got a severance. You didn't even get, did you take a lump sum or did you get monthly
So
stipend?
the way it was explained to me, which I don't think it was properly explained to me, they said you could either take a severance pay or you could take whatever. And at the time, I'm 90% disabled now. I was only like 10% back then.
Uh-huh.
So they're like, you can either take the severance pay or start getting your VA pay, but the VA pay wasn't shit compared to the $50,000. And I mean, I had a mortgage, I had kids, I had car, I had bills. So it made more sense to take the severance pay and then deal with the VA stuff later.
And I'm sure it wasn't explained to you, right? Because did they tell you you'd have to pay that severance pay back?
No, well, they said, yeah, they explained in a way like, if I remember right, oh, well, you have to wait for that severance pay to catch up to what your VA pay is or some shit like that.
Right. So that's, I don't know how that works. I know that's a common problem with dudes getting out who are in your situation that are offered a severance. They take the severance not realizing that they're going to have to pay that severance back before they ever see a stipend come into their checking account from the VA in the future. I didn't have to do that. I was 100% total and permanent on the way out, but that's kind of stands to reason as a 4 deployment infantry guy over 2003 to 2015. Like
Right.
I did it all. I was in all the bad places doing all the bad shit. So no, I'm glad you at least got out, and I'm glad you're at 90% now, man. And I would encourage you to keep going because you'll get to 100 eventually.
I am. I'm currently fighting right now. So
Yeah, good
been
for you,
fighting
man.
for a long time, brother.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And I encourage everybody to keep fighting. Like I think you'll agree to this. It's really not a lot of work for you to do. Just play the fucking game. That's what they want to see. Are you going to play the game? If you're going to be persistent, we're going to pay you in the end, kind of thing. And it's asinine to me that more vets, Ralph, if you're listening to this, I know you're probably not, but Ralph, the former Marine, he's a great dude. One of the first kind of civilian friends I had. Didn't know he was military when I was getting out, and he has to this day failed to go and get what he's entitled to because he just doesn't want the headache of playing the fuck games. And I'm like, dude, that's the dumbest thing I've ever fucking heard. Like, just fill out some paperwork and mail it in and wait. It's really that simple.
I think that what veterans need to know is, I think a lot of times some of us, we feel like we don't deserve it because, the whole, oh, I'm disabled or whatever. But no, like if you've been through hell and back in your military career, you need to take advantage of whatever you can get, whether that's school, whether that's because I'm in vocational rehab right now. So I get paid for going to school. I get my disability. And if it wasn't for these things, I wouldn't be able to live. Like this is my support. And as veterans, when you go to combat or you go through hell or you have all the good things, the PTSD, the major depressive disorder, the anxiety, the bad knees, bad back, migraines, asthma, everything that I have, and probably a lot of things that you have as well, you fucking deserve that for your service.
Well, and I want to just piggyback on that, man. I felt that way for a long time after I got out, and now I've been out a decade coming up here this November, right? So 10 years even. Really weird to start thinking about. I'm approaching that time frame where I've been out longer than I've been in. It's really weird to be doing the work that I'm doing. Blessed to be able to do the work that I'm doing and have struck such a nerve because nothing has changed in the decade since I've been out. So definitely blessed in that, but I will say a big part of what got me over kind of thinking that way is I've had 5 major surgeries in the last 4 years, and so like when you start to put that into perspective, so let's just say the bicep tendon surgery, I was working sod farms, waiting on some stuff from the FAA so I could go back to flight school, finish, become an instructor, and work a career flying airplanes, tear my bicep tendon, gets into a shitty surgeon who cuts me open. He's at the tail end of his career. A bicep tendon is not necessarily need to be reconnected. In fact, if you're over the age of 60, most of the time they'll just leave it torn and they won't reconnect it. I was 36, 7 at the time, so I don't even remember. But so now that sets recovery back from 3 or 4 months to over a year because now you got to play the fuck games and like I'm a 37-year-old male. I need that arm. Like I'm going to use that a lot in the rest of my life, particularly as somebody who, rediscovered fitness again, which we're definitely going to get to, and all of that stuff. So I think that's really what helped me let go of it. Is I would have never been able to go address some of these serious concerns if I didn't have the income that I'm entitled to, that I earned, you know what I mean? And so that really helped me change my mindset on it. And when you start learning how to for me, in my case, being 100% total and permanent medically retired, I've got TRICARE for life, and I've also got VA. And when you learn how to play those two against each other, it really becomes feasible to make taking care of yourself a main focus. And, I didn't want to do this hip surgery. I even asked the surgeon, like, hey, how long can I kick the can down the road on this? I don't really want to go through this again. I'm tired of being cut on every fucking year, sometimes twice a year, it seems. And turns out I'm really glad I did it, because I had no idea. I thought it was just torn labrum. Turns out the whole thing had turned to bone. And if I would have kicked it down the road any longer, I would have been faced with a more intense surgery and a hip replacement and a longer recovery, and it would have set me back even more. And I say all of that to say, if I didn't have the entitlements that I have, I wouldn't be in a position where I could address these things. And I think you'll relate to this. It would have continued to take a toll on my mental and physical health, which are so important to everything on the other side of military service, which let's just get into it. So you're struggling through transition and all of this. It's ugly. You're dealing with the loss of identity, the loss of purpose, no network, no community, no mission, for lack of a better term. You're just floating around, like faced with the freedom you fought for, but don't know how to take advantage of it, and just freaking the fuck out. So how did you discover coaching, and what was the wake-up call for you that led you into the shit that you're doing now?
Well, essentially, fitness saved my life. I mean, as after I got out of the military and as my severance started to run out, I remember looking at my bank account and being like, I'm screwed. And I literally was on my knees crying and praying and kind of yelling at God, like, I need help. And luckily I got a call from Department of Defense for a job that I applied.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into that job as a police officer, where I would work for another 10 years, still compounding mental health issues, still compounding depression, still compounding injuries, not really dealing with anything. And I blew up to almost 300 pounds. And it was 300 pounds of pure fat.
Yep.
And the Department of Defense Marine Corps, they had fitness, even though we were Department of Defense, they had fitness standards, they had body weight standards. So I had to lose the weight. And I remember I did my first mud run ever called Warrior Dash in Tampa. And my buddy was a photographer, and he took all the pictures. And I remember seeing the pictures of having man boobs and a fat gut and could barely breathe through half the race. And this is a guy who I was a high school athlete. I was a college athlete. Like, I was always in pretty good shape. I was kind of a skinny kid, didn't have to worry about fat. So I knew there had to be a change. So before I knew anything about fitness and training and strength and conditioning, I literally went to a Planet Fitness, and I would jump on a treadmill for 30 minutes, jump on a bike for 30 minutes, jump on elliptical for 30 minutes, and then bounce. And I did that over and over and over again until I started to lose the weight. And then I started getting back into my training when I was in the Navy with weights and everything else, and started to kind of readapt, like, wait a minute, I know how to be in shape. I know how to work out. So from the DoD police, I had some issues with them, and I left, and I went to Veterans Affairs of Police in West Palm Beach, where I live now in South Florida. Mm-hmm. And I worked there for 6 years, and I was miserable. Like, everybody there was miserable. Everybody there was upset. Everybody was sad. I was arresting veterans all the time. I was arresting the same veterans all the time. I was fighting the same veterans all the time. And I'm just miserable. And the straw that broke the camel's back was my mom had passed. Wow. My mom had passed. I was right there too.
I relate, man. This is 320 pounds.
Yeah, that's essentially what I looked like as well. So
yeah, dude, the gut. And to your point, man, telling yourself the lies. Oh, I'm in shape. I'm not, I'm not that bad off, dude. Look at the man boobs. Look at that gut, dude. Like just out of control, man.
Yeah, like, bro, I was just cramming my face full of shit and stuffing my depression with pizza and burgers.
Sugar was my issue. Yeah, big time.
And so my mom had passed in 2018, and I remember the police department, they weren't going to give me, I was out of leave. I had to always use my leave, my sick leave, but they wouldn't give me any bereavement leave to go deal with my mom dying.
Mm-hmm.
So after she passed and we dealt with all that, I was like, I need something more. So I actually opened a strength and conditioning gym. And it was to the point where I would literally I worked night shift at the police department. I would wake up, open the gym in the morning, close the gym in the afternoon, go home, shower, change, drive an hour to work a night shift, come home, open the gym, and do it over and over and over and over again.
So essentially you were living at the gym.
Yes, to the point where my chief of police was like, look, it's not working out here. You have two choices. Do you want to be a cop or do you want to be a business owner? And I said, fuck you. I want to be a business owner.
Good for you.
So I ran my gym for 4 years, and then the lovely COVID happened. And when COVID happened, I lost everything. Losing everything put me in an even deeper depression. It put me in more anxiety. I was divorced in 2017, and I was with a new woman who is now my wife. My new wife, who took all the loans out for me to open the gym, was like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm lost. Like, I can't do this. The gym was my passion. That was, I thought, Coach Rob's purpose. And so I had a bunch of odd jobs for a couple years. I worked at the Hard Rock Casino doing security. And I was like, well, fuck it. I'll go back into law enforcement. So I went and got state certified in Florida, and I started applying to all these departments. The first department, the department that I actually wanted to work for, I went to the psych not knowing not to tell the truth. And I told the truth, and they're like, you're a combat veteran. You have PTSD. You have anxiety. You can't be a cop. So immediately I got shut down from that. I have hand tattoos, and in Florida, you can't work for any department with hand tattoos. It's like the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life, because most people have tattoos these days. And as a cop, no one said, I won't talk to you because you have hand tattoos.
Right. So, like, it makes you more relatable, I think.
Right. It's a very ridiculous thing. So out of all places, Seminole Police Department at the Hard Rock, they're like, we need bodies, we'll take you. So I get hired by Seminole Police Department, and I get there, and lo and behold, to my surprise, just like at the VA, everybody's miserable. Everybody. They don't want me there. They don't want to train me as an older 47-year-old man. They want the rookie that they can control and command and tell what to do.
Yeah. And
I said, how do you get a promotion? You can't. Do you guys have any special programs? No. What is there here for me to advance? How can I become great here? You can't. And after working there for 4 months, and after seeing a young kid commit suicide, I was like, I'm done. Like, law enforcement is not for me anymore. It's playing too much on my mental health. As physically fit as I am, it's playing hell on my physical health. Wearing the gear, the vest, the belt, sitting in a car, working in the rain. And once again, an incident that kind of solidified me quitting is, we're sitting in our command center and I'm working on a report. And in the civilian world, when you have a police report, you don't go home until it's done. It has to be done by close of business. So if you have 10 calls, 20 calls, it doesn't matter. You're working on reports. So I'm doing a traffic accident report, and a call comes in, and they call a unit to go do the traffic accident. And my field training officer goes, are we going to that? And all I said to him, I was very respectful, even though I'm a grown ass man. I was like, no, I have to get this report done. And he knew previously that I had to go pick up my son this weekend. I see my son every other weekend. My kids are my priority over anything. My son lives 45 minutes away from me, so I have to drive 45 minutes one way to go get him.
And this motherfucker is going to take you to this traffic accident.
Yes. He goes, you don't tell me no. We're going to this accident, which ended up keeping me like 4 hours later than normal. I couldn't go pick up my son because it was too late because I'm exhausted and I haven't ate dinner. I haven't took a shower.
Which probably starts some shit on the other side over there with mom, right? Like I see where this is going.
So I talked to my current wife. We have a deep discussion. That next day I go in and talk to the sergeant. I'm like, look, Sarge, I'm sorry. I appreciate the opportunity, but I can't do this. And I left. And after I left, once again, the wife's like, oh crap. You know, my wife's a teacher. She doesn't make that much money. And we live in South Florida where it's expensive. And she's like, you know, how am I going to pay the bills? And I'm like, babe, like, I can't tell you this, but I have a passion and I have a purpose. And if I don't follow that purpose, if I don't go all in on this purpose, I'll never, ever know what's going to happen. I'll never feel complete. I'll never be happy. Like, I know what I'm supposed to do, whether it's God, the universe, I know what I'm supposed to do. And one of the things was every time I ran into a former gym member, the first thing they would ask me is, when are you going to open another gym? And what I'd want to say is, well, when you give me $50,000 to $80,000, I'll gladly do it.
Yeah.
But the common denominator was they're like, we've never found a coach like you. We've never had anybody train us like you. We've never had anybody give us the support that you did. And I was like, well, I guess Coach Rob is going to have to be Coach Rob. And then I went deep into the personal development space. And by doing this, not only did I heal, and I still deal with mental health issues, I still have some bad days.
Everybody does. That's the trap, right?
But doing what I do, I healed from my fucking trauma.
Yes.
I became at peace with myself. I became happy. My brother saw a picture of me. He's like, dude, I've never seen you so happy before. I started making mindset shifts. I started doing things where my wife would look at me and be like, is this my husband? Because this is not how you normally behave. And it just became an amazing thing. And I was like, you know what? It's time to market this. It's time to push this out to the world. And this is what it's going to be. And this is my life now. And this is how I help people and change the world and become something bigger than myself.
Yeah, you're just serving something bigger than yourself, I think,
right.
is really what it comes down to. And so you're an accredited certified coach, correct? What did you go through to get that?
I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. I do have a personal trainer certification. I am looking to get a recognized international
like IFC or something like that. Yeah.
International coaching certification. But no, I mean, I was married for 18 years and then divorced. I'm a father of 3 kids, 2 of who are adults. My kids are mixed, half white, half black. So I've had to deal with racism and other issues. 10 years military vet, 18 years total law enforcement, have PTSD, depression, major anxiety, social anxiety, full-time student. So I have the reps to be a coach. And when I don't like the term life coach, I hate that fucking term because you get a lot of 20-year-olds like, I'm a life coach.
And you got no life experience, motherfucker.
Right. I'm a personal development coach, and I can take you from my 3 perspective, which is fitness first, then mindset, then discipline, and I can fix your life.
Yes, I agree with that 1,000%. The only reason I asked is because you said you dove down the personal development rabbit hole, and I imagine for you that's where you unlocked a lot of just self-discovery probably happened. You started to realize the negative things that you were doing to yourself that were causing you to be in these states, right? The depression, the PTSD stuff. For me, it was an ayahuasca experience that really kind of opened my eyes to all of that stuff and gave me the tools to come out the other side of that and build and create everything that I've created here. That's not a secret. Everybody knows it, to include, a pipeline for veterans, first responders, and their families to go to Peru and have a transformational experience. So I relate to what you're saying 1,000,000%. And you and I had talked offline before. We see things very much the same way. Your fitness, what was it? What are your 3 pillars? Fitness,
so it's fitness, mindset. So first, fitness, because if I can look at your overall health and your nutrition and how you're behaving in that area, getting someone back on track, not only obviously do we feel better because we know that's a fact, we look better, but that starts building the resilience, that starts building the healthy habits, that starts building the purpose and the foundation. And then the mindset to give them the journaling, the gratitude work. I have lots of curriculum that I'm writing, an emotional trigger tracker where you can track what triggers you so you can get over it and fix it. Affirmation cards that you can keep with you. So when you feel like shit, you can just look at one and get back in the fight. So writing my own tools to change the game on personal development, and then discipline, because at the end of the day, I don't want you working with me forever. I want you to be able to take care of yourself. So that's how the 3 pillars intertwine and work together.
Yeah, and through all of this podcast, the LinkedIn personal brand, all that stuff, just having conversations with veterans. Matthew Banco clued me in, and he articulated this in a way I would never come up with. But we have MEPS to get in, military entry processing station. We need MEPS to get out, and it's 5 areas that you need to work on in your life to have a transition, a successful transition. First one, mental, emotional, physical. I'm with you. I think physical first. That's where everything starts, and it helps the other areas. And then social and spiritual. Those are 5 areas of your life that must be in tune and being given the proper energy in order for you to get out and live a great life. And so, your 3 pillars are right in there. The foundation of everything that I do, my one core value is discipline. Discipline, for me, it's the one thing I've had my whole life. It's never let me down. It's always been there for me. It doesn't run away scared. It's something that I can always fall back on. And it's like, if you just show up and do this thing every single day, life gets better. And so that is my core value. And I'm so in alignment with you. The physical part is one I really want to talk about, because that's how you got your start in all of this, right? Buying and opening a gym, losing everything during COVID, the universe putting people that used to be your gym members in your path saying, hey, when are you going to do this again? I've never had anybody like you. Those are little breadcrumbs I think the universe was leaving you, whether you realized it or not. The physical aspect, it's one we all hate when we're in the military. Everybody hates organized PT. Everybody hates, at least in the Army, first formation 06, PT till 08, fucking come back, work call 09, extra PT if you're a fat body or whatever. Everybody wants to get rid of PT. It's the first thing that goes when we get out for most of us. I showed you the picture. I'm 320 fucking pounds at my heaviest, dude.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. And why do you think we abandon PT? Like, why? If you and I now, because I don't have a good answer for this. I don't know why I let it go and why I'm so disciplined about it. I mean, even after hip surgery, I finally was cleared to walk on my 40th birthday last week and go back to the gym. And so every day since, it's gradual increase in distance and speed, without pain. Obviously pain is my guide right now, but even before, 85 to 100 miles a month is what I was walking at, about a 4.1 mile an hour pace. That comes out to 4.1 miles in just under an hour. That's cooking, right? Like, that's actually moving pretty quick. And then I lift 4 or 5 days a week when I can, time allowing. I have some other things, I want to get into jiu-jitsu again as soon as this hip heals. I like yoga, the benefits of yoga and flexibility. I just bought a slant board for some knees over toes stuff and body weight stuff at home to get extra reps in and really start focusing on taking care of my joint health. Why do you think we abandon all of that stuff?
I was going to ask you the same question because I'm not sure. I think, honestly, the only thing I could think of is it's, from the day we're in boot camp to even some commands is just beating our body. So it becomes routine, but we're not made to enjoy it. We don't get told or taught the priorities of fitness, health, and nutrition. It's just, you're going to do this and you're going to like it whether you do or not. And I think that the problem is the regimented PT, some people just don't enjoy that. So like, you really have to find, I always tell everybody, I like strength and conditioning. I think that's the best thing, but do what you like, do what you enjoy, do what works. And if it works, keep doing it over and over and over again until it doesn't work, and then find something else. You don't have to do what Coach Rob does, but some form of activity. And I think that's the problem is in the military, we didn't enjoy it. Now, I had a guy that took me under his wing and was a bodybuilder, and he got me into bodybuilding, but he took the time to show me how muscles work and how to lift and why we do certain exercises. And then I decided to nerd out on that and go, into that deeper. But the military doesn't teach us that stuff. They're just like, do, 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 do. And it's force fed. And I think, when we get out, we don't have that battle buddy. We don't have. So one of the things I'm trying to do in my 8-week coaching programs is I only take 8 people, and I only take 8 people because I want them to be teams, whether it's like a SEAL team or a combat team or a fire team. I want them to build that relationship with each other, to know that they're all going through the same amount of suck, that they're not alone, and build that tribe mindset. So when we're done with the coaching, they can continue on and they can talk to each other and they can reach out to each other. And I think maybe that's the biggest problem is we get out, like you said, we need a MEPS, we need a battle buddy system. We need people we can talk to, because as veterans and especially as men, we don't fucking ask for help.
Ever. No, dude. And to your point, man, I love this philosophy, the small groups to hold themselves accountable, the team aspect of it. We run our Amakai cohorts the same way. We only take 11 people per retreat, and we create a signal group chat. And kind of my role, I just did this 2 days ago with a brand new group of 11 people. Now, mind you, it's a little bit different from physical fitness because plant medicine it's a terrifying thing. I speak from experience. I was terrified with no psychedelic experience when I went. However, that signal group is probably responsible for all of the changes that I made, just in being able to hold myself accountable to the group based on some of the promises that we made at the end of the retreat to one another. And I love that philosophy, man, because it actually worked for me. I went like we were talking about, I went from the guy on the left in this picture at 320 pounds to the guy on the right in this picture. I think that was at my lowest at 211 before I got back into the gym. So over 100 pounds. And like you were saying, man, I didn't do anything but walk to lose that weight. I didn't go to the gym. I didn't do a single push-up. I didn't do a single pull-up. I didn't do anything but walk and pay attention to what I was putting in my mouth. And, and then obviously the group, right? I had the cohort that I went, those brothers and sisters that I went to Peru with and had that transformational journey with, to hold me accountable based on the promises that I made to them at that retreat. And so I love that you're doing that with your coaching program because it's so powerful.
Definitely, like that. We got to do. So as I was saying, it's funny. I was talking to a friend today, and I just switched gyms because the gym I was at was too crowded. And he texted me and he's like, I'm like, dude, where have you been? Like, I reach out to you, I ask if you're okay. And this guy's not even a military guy. He's just a normal civilian. He's like, I didn't want to be a burden on you. I didn't want to like talk to you about my problems. And I said, dude, if there's anybody in your corner after the 7 years we've been friends, it's me. Right. And I said, that's the problem as men. We hold everything in, we keep our mouths shut, we don't talk to anybody, and then shit gets proverbially worse. We don't fix our issues. And so how do we fix our issues? We have to have a like-minded tribe of individuals that there's no judgment. It doesn't make you broken. It doesn't make you a bad person if you have issues. No, you talk about it, you take the advice to fix it, and then you move forward and you get over it.
Yeah. And I've done, I guess at this point, I'd call it a social experiment. I created the Stronghold, which is a free community on School. The intention behind that was to be the antithesis of Facebook groups. And those Facebook groups I'm talking about, where you try to go get advice for some challenge that you're going through and you get bullied, you get ridiculed, you get told to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, suck it up, you pussy, stop being a little bitch. And it's like, yeah, that all might have been fucking great when we were under the delusion that you don't need help, you don't ask for help when you're in the military. But when we get out, I still believe, and nobody's ever going to convince me otherwise. So if you're one of those assholes in those Facebook groups bullying people, I believe it contributes to the suicide epidemic that plagues our community. So my idea behind the Stronghold was like, look, come here, talk about the problems that you're going through, and get advice from people who have actually walked a mile in your shoes, who have transitioned out, who are facing the same challenges that you're facing now. I call it a social experiment because a lot of people don't want to come in and engage. They don't feel comfortable. They don't believe that you can, be vulnerable in that type of way and actually get some good feedback from other people. So I also don't, I have so many other things going on. I don't want to be the driver of engagement in that community. That's not what it was created for. It was created to just be a resource where, hey, I fucked up. I treated my wife like shit. This has been going on for so long because of unaddressed, mental trauma that I don't know how to fix. And I need to come dump all of this in here, give you my situation. Does anybody have advice for me? I've actually used my community for something very similar to that in my own personal life to try and spark the engagement, to let people know that it's okay. And, people are people. There's so many extenuating circumstances out there now. There's 7 major social media platforms. Everybody has a routine when they get off work or whatever. I'm now asking them to come to another platform and engage there. And it's super complicated. Hindsight 2020, I probably never would have started it. It would have saved me well over $1,500 at this point, but it is what it is. We got 200 veterans in there. They use it a little bit. Hopefully someday that'll pick up, but it's there as a resource and it's there to be the antithesis of Facebook groups. And if audience, because people need to know that you're that shitty fucking veteran. You know what I mean? It's not acceptable.
Definitely. And we'll talk offline, but I'll help you with that.
Yeah, brother. Man, dude, we've killed this hour. We both knew we would. So I would love for you to tell people how they can reach out, find your coaching program, look at your podcast, all the things that you have going on. And really what I want people to understand is that guys like you and I who are actually doing the work in a space where so many people say we need to do something, but they don't get off their ass and do anything. We actually are approachable just because we have bigger followings or we've put things together and built things. I hear this all the time. You probably hear it too in the DMs. It's like, man, I'm surprised you responded so fast. I didn't expect somebody with as many followers and as much of a voice as you to give me the time of day. I want people to understand we are not those people. What drives me forward is, man, I'm looking at it right now. I have 41 notifications on LinkedIn that I get to answer as soon as we're done recording here. And I spend the time to go through and answer every comment if within reason. I can tell the difference between somebody who's trying to just get me to platform them versus somebody who is genuinely engaging with the content. The DMs, I love helping veterans in the DMs. However, I've had to scale back how many calls I'll do with people just because I have other things going on that I need to focus on to generate more revenue to then allow me to help more people and free up more of my time to do the free work. It's not a personal thing. It's just if you try to help everybody, you end up helping nobody, and you have to realize that at a certain point. And so I want people to understand that about guys like you and I. Just because we're building names and brands and doing good work for people doesn't mean we're unapproachable and that we won't talk to you. I've had so many guests on this podcast, coaches, real estate investors. I just did one you saw with a land investor. Everybody is so willing to spend time with our community to just help them get a leg up. And so I want people to understand that about you.
All right. So funny story that you brought that up is I reach out on social media to a lot of famous people, especially in the veteran community. And most of the time I get crickets, right? Because I'm not that big guy yet. I will be. I'll be the #1 personal development veteran in the world. I know this. But I told my wife and I said, you know what? I don't understand. And she's like, what's that? I said, I don't care who messages me. I don't care what they ask. I'm going to give them the time. And no matter how big I get, no matter how well known I am, I'm always going to have time for people because not only is that the right thing to do, but people want to be heard. Yep. And you never know that one voice, that one message that you respond to, if that's going to save their life, if that's going to change their perspective, if that's going to help them be the push they need to be great. So like you said, I will always, always answer anybody. The best place to reach me right now is the website, which is battlefittedbrand.com. That's battlefittedbrand.com. My heaviest platform right now is Instagram @battlefitted. I'm literally everywhere at battlefitted. And every Wednesday on Instagram, I do Ask Coach Rob. So Tuesday in my stories, I put a prompt. You can ask me any question. You can DM me any question. I will not put your business out there. I will just answer the question. So if you say, hey, I've been having, suicidal thoughts and I don't know how to deal with them, I will answer that on a Wednesday. That's my way of giving back. People don't realize that I give a lot of free resources just on my Instagram alone. The 8-week coaching program is currently still in the works, but I do have what's called the Battle Fitted Blueprint. And the Battle Fitted Blueprint is a free resource that if anybody messages me, it basically gives you a 30-day journal that will let you look in your 1, 3, and 5-year goals. And it asks all the right questions to give you specific intention to decide where you want to go in that 1, 3, 5 years. Now, you have to write in this journal for 30 days and you have to be very intent on everything you say and do.
You got to do the fucking work.
You have to do the work. But I've took the guessing out of it. I've made the right questions. It has a character design sheet that will actually, like a video game, because I'm a big gamer nerd, it'll actually allow you to create the character you want to become, and then you can start living that life. So lots of resources available to people that want to be better. I prefer to work with veterans and first responders, but I will literally work with anybody that wants to change their life.
Same, man. I love that too about you, because through this podcast has created an incredible opportunity for me. I think you probably have experienced that for yourself doing the work that you're doing. Just, that's another side of that, making time for people, no matter what the ask is in the DMs. Not only is it maybe, saving their life, I find oftentimes really what people want is just to be heard. Like you said, they just want an ear. I talk a lot. I talk a lot. I've looked at this through some of my note-taking apps and whatnot. I speak fast and I speak a lot. However, those calls really end up just me listening more. That's really all they want. And it's really cool on the backside of that to get DMs back from them a week or two later. And like, man, I can't say how much or why it helped me, but thank you for listening. That's what I needed in that moment. And on the other side of that, you may have saved their lives, but you also created opportunity for yourself. And I encourage people to look at it that way, because yeah, you might be doing something for free. You might be investing time into it, but what opportunity are you creating for yourself? And that's been the biggest thing I've discovered, is the amount of opportunity I can create for myself by having, the stones to just get out of my comfort zone and build something. So I love everything about what you're doing, Rob. I know that there are plenty of things that you and I are probably going to do in the future. I've got several ideas that I'm sure we're going to talk about offline here in just a minute for different. I love what you're doing on Instagram. Ask me a question, it stays anonymous. I just answer the question. I could see a world where we collaborate and maybe I come help you answer some of those questions. I think that would be really cool, particularly because I don't have an Instagram following. And I know that's another place that our audience, our brothers and sisters hang out. So thank you so much for being here, man. Thank you for the work that you're doing. And from me personally, thank you for initially reaching out saying that we needed to talk and collaborate, but also for validating, just my ideas and philosophies and really being like letting me know and showing me that I'm on the right track in everything that I've done, because all of this has been self-discovery for me. I haven't like built a framework or anything. It's just through conversation that I've arrived at these conclusions. And it's really cool to link up with somebody who's doing the exact same work with the exact same audience in maybe a little bit different way, but showing me that everything that I have kind of brought together and to shape my own philosophies is right where I should be and right in the same way. So I really appreciate you for that as well, brother.
Yeah, I feel the same way, brother. So we're two brains intertwined, man.
Yeah, everybody, I give you a Coach Rob or Rob Wheeler. Please go check out all this stuff. Everything that he mentioned will be linked in the show notes below. Please look, man, it's been really interesting the last couple of days. Some bigger podcasts have one in particular, chatting with veterans. They are not veterans themselves or civilians, but they believe that what Rob and I are doing needs more recognition. So they're on this mission where they find lesser known YouTube channels and like review content and like actually put us on a pedestal and a platform. And so, I'm getting several DMs lately that say, you're way underrated. You should have way more followers. What you're doing is amazing. We want to put you on. So if all of you listening to this could go like, rate, review, subscribe, download. Look, I am not trying to make any money off of any of this. I just want to help our brothers and sisters. And it's conversations like this that nobody else is willing to have, or too afraid to have, that is truly making a difference in our community. So please help me get this in front of as many people, not only so it benefits, what I'm doing and reaches more people, but so that it piggybacks with what Rob's doing and his audience can find it. And before you know it, Rob is the best personal development coach in the veteran space in the world. And, Adam has the biggest transition platform, and people just know where to go and that they're going to get quality information and evergreen content that they can, for years down the road, go look at. So please help us do that. And until next time, we'll see you with another heater of an episode. Take care, everybody.
Peace.
Dude, the time went so fast.
Yeah, I know.
Is this thing